I think that Kim Mulkey did that with the girl she had. Like she took a lot of girls that nobody wanted to deal with and turned them into a champion. So to me, it's
Yeah,
she allowed them the freedom. You know what I mean? She allowed them to be who they are, and it paid off for them. Now,
greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today on this Throwdown Thursday edition is the Ted DiBiase to my hacksaw Jim Duggan in Mid-South Wrestling as a part of the Rat Pack, the icon, the showstopper, the main event, and the reason why we are here, Coach Mike Francis. And Coach, first of all, I don't know how much Mid-South Wrestling you ever watched.
none.
Heavy hitting is the forerunner to the UWF, which used to come on Channel 50 on Saturdays. But anyway, I digress. On this Throwdown Thursday edition, we're going to wrap up college basketball's postseason. We're going to start to transition to a little more football talk. So over the next couple of weeks, it'll be a little bit of football, a little bit of college basketball. And then as we get closer and closer, we'll ramp that thing up with football. Yeah, this is that time that we make those transitions. So let's salute the champions, and let's start off with the women's game first, man. First of all, it had ratings. That's the first thing. People watched. And LSU in 2 years handled its business, 9 transfers. They got the win, but there's a little flack after the championship win. Dr. Jill Bott, First Lady, kind of came out of the pocket, but cooler heads prevailed, and they will go visit the White House, do the time-honored tradition and all of that. But, Mike, any thoughts on LSU before we dig down and talk about the other things? Congratulations, well done, well deserved. And Angel Reese and the young lady who was secondary who became primary. I forgot her name, but that's one of the things we talked about. She came off the bench, didn't get a lot.
They let her shoot,
and she was not on the scout. I was laughing at the assistant coaches because I'm sure somebody got cursed out in the locker room.
Tell you, man, it's crazy, man, because they had a deep team, and it didn't. I mean, everybody knew they was deep, but it was really, really evident by everybody who came and stepped up, And they tried that whole thing when she waved off that girl from South Carolina. She couldn't do that. Couldn't do that the other night. No, sir. No, sir. She couldn't do that. Not at all, because LSU was deep. And I hats off to Kim Mulkey. Like she said in the press conference, the girl she coached, sometimes it's more about managing attitudes than coaching. Mm-hmm. And some people are afraid to deal with people like that, or afraid, one of my most successful runs that we had at Ole Mill, I had a freshman point guard. He started on varsity for 4 years on varsity, right? Made all league honors 3 years out of the 4. We won 3 straight county championship, went to sections, regions, all that good stuff. And him and I used to go at it like oil and water, how you say it, whatever it was, because everybody said, "Oh, I couldn't coach him. Oh, he's horrible. He's out." No. He has the way he feels. He's a very confident young man, and that confidence can sometimes be looked at as, being braggadocious or being arrogant. Mm-hmm. So to me, I felt like it was my job just to keep him in that slot where he could play and play well, and do things. But I think that Kim Mulkey did that with the girl she had. Like she took a lot of girls that nobody wanted to deal with and turned them into a champion. So to me, she allowed them the freedom. You know what I mean? She allowed them to be who they are, and it paid off for them. Now, that doesn't always work for everyone, but she, as the old saying is, I'd rather fit my style around my players than fit my players to my style, because they're the ones on the floor.
Yes, indeed. And you have to be adaptable. And that's one of the things that, I talked about But I want to get your thoughts on the noise. So Iowa guard Caitlin Clark said LSU forward Angel Reese doesn't deserve any criticisms for her actions. And congratulations to LSU. One of the things that I've seen throughout my entire career, both as a player and a coach, is that what outsiders think is noise, insiders think is Tuesday. So hats off to Caitlin Clark for actually saying, we just playing. And whatever happens on the court happens on the court. And then after the game, whatever.
Right.
So what did you think, Mike, about all the noise about Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Jill Biden coming out of the pocket with her joint invitation, which kudos to the White House for snatching her up, saying, will you shut up? What are you doing? And so what are your thoughts on the perceived noise?
What else? Not saying it wasn't genuine, but what else is she gonna say? What else? She lost. What else she gonna say? She can't say anything else. She's gonna say, "Oh, I did." And then not only that, everybody has shown, if you watch anything on social media, she's done the same thing. She has done the same thing all year long. She's gotten away with things, and it was nice, and it was her being a competitor. Yes, like a black quarterback.
Fiery, passionate.
Yeah, fiery. That's it. John Stockton was fiery.
He's a scrappy player.
But come on, man. The language. We know what's in the language. Yes. But yeah, so she can't say nothing else. And it's not to her own fault. Again, she doesn't deserve some of the criticism she's getting, but she did the same thing. So you can't have it one person doing it and then another person having it looked at a different way. And I'm gonna tell you right now, that Barstool dude and Keith Olbermann would have to see me. They'd have to see me, bro. You can't talk about my daughter like that. Yeah. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you pimp, pope, or prostitute. I treat everyone the same, and I expect the same. And I'm gonna give you respect. But when you disrespect my children, man, man.
It was a little much. When again, we're in the business of education. We're educators through and through.
I forgot we're in college, right?
And their children, they are college athletes. They are not professionals, as the line is, and they're at that bridge age. But no, don't tell me about class. Don't tell me about any of that stuff.
You didn't say that about Johnny Manziel.
I don't want to hear about none of that.
Right. You ain't say none of that. You ain't call him an idiot. Yeah, like you ain't do that. No.
I still love the scene when Serena Williams said, "I will shove this ball down your freaking throat." And yeah, give me that. I would rather tone you down than I can't meet your level of energy every day in terms of getting you ready to play. I'd rather say, "Hey, come here, man. We all right," So let's move to the men's side. UConn, congratulations. You beat up South Carolina to win the national championship. But your game ended up, as predicted, to being the lowest viewed final. Told you nobody was going to watch that thing. So the win averaged 14.69 million viewers on CBS. The previous low was 15.9 in 2018 when Villanova beat Michigan on TBS. UConn's 2004 victory over Georgia Tech, a game I just mentioned yesterday on yesterday's show, averaged 17 million, was the lowest CBS Monday night game. And as you know, fans, CBS and TBS alternate Final Fours. So please keep that in mind. On the other side, the women's viewers had 9.9 million viewers on ABC and ESPN2. This year's men's tourney averaged 9.5, which was down 7% from last year, but up 4% from 2021. The lack of national name brands after the upsets took a toll on viewing. So, Mike, any thoughts about the TV habits? Because TV drives this thing, and the women were up close to 10 million, and the men were down. But look at what that down number was. any thoughts you have before we move on to the
I'm glad.
changing landscape?
I'm completely happy for the women's game and where it's going. And the viewership is definitely it's going to be more next year when them two come back. What are you talking about? You know the NCAA office right now, they licking their chops. Them folks is licking their chops. They figuring how they can get them on TV more. How can we get them in a preseason classic? You're gonna see
Yeah.
something. And the presidents, they ain't stupid. And if I'm Kim Mulkey, we coming, but it's gonna cost.
Yeah, and they want to do a separate women's tournament and get separate money and separate units. We talked about it last, separate contract, and I'll put that up for bid. Absolutely. I think they might get a better idea than the Pac-12 contract, but that's another story. We'll save that for segment 3. So, Mike, are we in a changing landscape? San Diego State made it to the national championship game. And Florida Atlantic made it to the Final Four clean, winning over 30 games. But we also had the COVID year, and man, those teams is old as hell. So is this a changing landscape, or it's going to kind of shake itself out in the next year or two with the end of the COVID gift years? What do you think, man?
I just can't. I'm trying to figure out, honestly. I'm just trying to figure out what are we going to do with the COVID. You said the COVID gift years?
Well, remember, guys can keep coming back because they got a COVID year.
But when does the COVID year run out?
I think it runs out next year. I mean,
so
I think those
so
players
current
who are
freshmen can still use.
I don't think current freshmen can
That's what I
use it.
mean. Like I don't know
But
how.
those
Where's the cutoff?
those 2 years, 19, 20, 21, the years 2019, 2020, 2021. So guys have played 6 years of college basketball, college football. So I think that little crew that was affected by COVID, I think 2024 will be the last year. This is unofficial that we're going to have that mass, number of players that can come back. However, the transfer portal is not changing. So you're still going to have that. But
the log jam is created, and that's what's happening and forcing the transfer portal to be where it is. You know
well,
what
I
I
think
mean?
that
That's
numbers are
crazy.
gonna. I think the transfer portal
Did you
numbers
see
are
the
gonna be
girl
high.
from Louisville into the portal?
Louisville entered the portal, but she entered as a graduate transfer, and the number 1 recruit last year from Stanford entered clean, and she's the first one to do it. I think since Della Don left
Oh, she
UConn for
went to
Connecticut.
Delaware. Yeah, she went to
And she went back
Delaware.
to Delaware, to be with her family and all.
Yeah,
But again, that situation was unique because
yeah,
her sister has some special, health
right,
needs. But
right.
this one leaving is just bye. So
Louisville that bad?
well, I don't know, but she is that young lady in particular from Louisville is a do not contact transfer list person. That means she kind of knows where she's going. So rumor has it that there's been some tampering, but I'm not touching any of that. If you want to go.
Tampering, we got NIL. Of course it's gonna be tampering. Like, hey, we can get you this amount of money. Oh, where do I sign? Like, come on, man.
Yeah. So with that, I do want to mention that real life is real. Bill Self said he's doing well after a health scare kept him from coaching Kansas in the Big 12 and NCAA tournament. Bill Self is 60. Both Mike and I are now north of 50. And, he was complaining of chest tightness, concerns about his balance. He had 2 stents placed to help treat blocked arteries. Bill Self acknowledged that the health scare made him reevaluate his future in coaching. He said, and I quote, "I think the last several weeks I've been able to reflect. Being in a hospital bed on your back does that. The one thing I can tell you without question is I miss my job. I love my job. I want to do my job for a long time. But for me to be effective at that, I got to do some things different from a lifestyle standpoint, from a personal standpoint. I've been very, very inconsistent in my adult life. I got to lose weight. I got to eat right. I got to exercise. And, I'd mentioned stay connected last week. I know both you and I have taken our health a lot more seriously, as we mentioned on the show a lot of times, our times at the hoop group and our horrible diets as coaches and poor sleep patterns. And now we both make sure we get our sleep, get our rest, all of those
Mhm.
things. So any thoughts about Bill Self and his transition? And again, we wish Coach all the best.
I hope that he is able to get back to being full time leader of that program, but only if health is not in danger. I think there's nothing more important at this time, especially as you say we're both north of 50. There's nothing more important. Health is wealth. They say health is wealth. So I think that he has to really take he has to really take into account of what it is and how can he function. I had a heart attack right after the summer after I took over the job at Essex. I had a heart attack. Like I took the job April, had a heart attack in August, but not even August, in June.
Mm-hmm.
So my first couple of weeks was I was in a chair. I couldn't stand up. I was rolling around in the gym on a chair. But you got to be able to assess that, and it's time to look at your family and things like that. And we don't do that. Our families are the biggest ones who lose out during the
Mm-hmm.
seasons. We know that, but you know,
And Mike, I'm glad you said that because real life's real. I left coaching in 2013 was the last year I coached, in part because of the doctoral process, and in part because, man, it's a stressful lifestyle. And it's the same thing academically as administrators. Mike, you're going through a different level of stress
oh
as
my
an
god,
administrator. I am an acting administrator. It's a different level of stress because being an administrator is a negative day. And what I mean
mm-hmm,
by that, fans, is most of the information, most of the interactions you have on a day-to-day basis is because something's wrong.
mm-hmm,
And it's a whole change of light. And when you're a head coach, most of your interactions in a day, negative interactions, because something is wrong. No
mm-hmm,
one's going to walk up to Coach Franchise and say, Mike, I just want to tell you what a great job you're doing as a insert whatever. It's usually, did you hear this? Or did
mm-hmm,
you know that? Or and it's so you've got to suppress a lot of stuff
mm-hmm,
because you can't cut promos on people every day and say your classroom management's bad. That's why you stink. Or, hey, Charlie, you're not playing because, quite frankly, you're not as good as we thought you were going to be, and you haven't progressed. You've got to couch everything. You got to tiptoe, and then after practice, you got your own family to deal with. You're eating later than you should. You're not getting
mm-hmm,
enough rest. There's
mm-hmm.
many a time I'm watching a West Coast game because I want to see Stanford play because they're running something that I think somebody's going to. So, hey, Bill Self, I'm glad you're healthier. I'm glad this gave you pause because that's all we're trying to do. So Mike and I are trying to do is pause. That's why Mike's an assistant. That's why I'm a consultant. I'll go to your practice. I'll watch you. Here's what I see. And Bob, I'm not doing this every day. So anyway, any final thoughts with that, Mike, before we celebrate the life of somebody extremely special to both of us?
And that's just wishing that he listens to his doctors more than anything. I don't care what the outcome is. He has to listen to his doctor.
Yeah. So, fans, as we in this segment, we lost just a giant, a coach's coach. That's kind of how
Mm.
I'm looking at it. We lost a coach's coach. Billy Hahn, former assistant at Maryland, former head coach at LaSalle, former assistant in everything else at West Virginia, and a number of other places. I'm not doing Billy's career any justice. I also worked at the Hoop Group for many a moon. Passed away. If you knew Billy, he'd give you a big dog. He'd say he's living a dream. He's a character with character, a storyteller extraordinaire, as loyal a person as you'll ever meet. And Mike, what I posted was that Billy was a big time coach that never big time anybody.
Never.
He was a big time coach that never big time anybody. I'm still laughing at his jokes about Terrence Morris and Frederick. Can't tell you those fans, but Mike off. I think you know those jokes. Uh, Any memories you want. And Matty Ice, we're sending our love to you. That's his son, Matt Hahn. Again, we came up in a different era of coaching that, as I said to Mike off camera, I don't think anybody is going to go through how we came up in the business. But, Mike, anything you want to add?
The guy was more importantly than being a good coach and a great recruiter, his personality was larger than life. He'd come in and walk in and light the room up when he came in. You know, we spent many evenings, we spent many evenings trying to do things basketball wise, sitting and talking about, we're going to talk about press breakers, we're going to talk about this, or telling stories like, oh my God, and RC and everybody who was there, little Phil Martelli, like all those guys that came on there with us. We would be in that Travis Lounge, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, man. And Bill, Billy was always the best storyteller, man. You cried around him or you stayed sad around Billy Hahn, and you had
something wrong with you.
Yeah, something.
I'm laughing right now, sitting in Travers. Bad diet because it was pizza and wings and beers there. But again, such a helper, man. He's again a big time coach who never big timed anybody
at all.
And, rest in peace. Thoughts and prayers go out to the Hahn family. And again, when you're not on the road, you don't see everybody. But Matt, we are sending our best, Matty Ice. We are sending our best to you, and we'll be right back on the Coaches Podcast.
The high school and college academic and athletic landscape is changing. The growing number of college transfers, as well as student athletes being able to profit off the use of their name, image, and likeness, has given student athletes the freedom and power to make life-changing decisions. That is why it is important for student athletes to be properly informed throughout the decision-making process. The difference between success and failure is often measured not by yards, but by inches, and even the most successful coaches and players use outside independent consultants to help improve their decision-making, which improves their results. That is what the CKA Save Project would like to do for student athletes across the country, improve their academic and athletic results. Our academic and athletic consulting services assist student athletes with the college decision-making process. The CKA team of former high school and college coaches can provide student athletes an independent assessment of their academic and athletic skills to assist student athletes in their college decision-making process. Let the CKA team evaluate your academic and athletic ability to assist you in finding the right fit for your academic and athletic career. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free virtual consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
All right, fans, welcome back to the Coaches Podcast. It's segment 2 as we're still laughing at Billy Hahn. We're going to transition, man. We're going to transition, talk a little bit about college football recruiting. So here comes the money, or is it show me the money, Mike?
Show me the money.
How much does it cost to buy the resources necessary to win a national championship? If you ask the Georgia Bulldogs, the answer is $16.5 million. The Bulldogs spent that much between 2017 and 2022 on recruiting expenses, which was more than $5 million more than any other program in the country. So let's look back, man. Let's look at what you need money for recruiting. Recruiting budgets can cover a wide variety of expenses. You got transportation. You got making sure everything is good. Let's see what we got here. While spending doesn't guarantee success, 7 of the last 8 championships were won by schools in the top 3 in recruiting. So private schools not included, and the University of Pittsburgh's not included for the ACC. But here are the ACC top 3, Mike. Clemson, $3.1 million. North Carolina, $1.3 million. Georgia Tech, $1.2 million. And then the bottom 3, Florida State, less than $900,000. Virginia Tech, less than 900,000. They're at 899 and 898 respectively. And NC State is the last at 632,000, give or take. Any thoughts on ACC spending, sir?
That's a lot of money, bro. That's a lot of money.
And that's ACC money. And Florida State, and I'm surprised their number was that low. I can't lie to you. But again, they're not traveling a lot because they're in Florida. So maybe that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move to the Big Ten. Top three, Michigan, 2.2 million. Rutgers, 1.6 million. What are they buying? Penn State, 1.4 million. And just for its and giggles, Maryland's at 1.3 million, almost 1.4 million. So they're four. And then the bottom three, Wisconsin, 857,000, Indiana, 826,000, and Iowa, shockingly, 577,000. Any thoughts on the Big Ten?
The right way. It's the right way. They're not. I mean, it is what it is with how they spend. I mean, I don't doubt.
All right.
It kind of plays over into their programs, don't you think?
Yes. When I saw Iowa was the last, I had a pause moment. I paused and said, okay, I'm going to continue on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the Big 12, Oklahoma, 2.6 million, Texas, 2.4 million. Make sure we compare those numbers to the SEC when we get there. And West Virginia was third at 971,000. And the bottom three, Kansas State, 841,000, Iowa State, 804,000, and Oklahoma State, I'm 40, 455,000.
I'm 40. I can't do that.
455,000.
I'm sorry. I'm 40.
Oh, man. Mike Gundy's like 50 now. But what about the Big 12, man? That's a big gap between 1 and 12.
Well, they take it serious. They take it real serious, man. They do. And it's big money. You got to spend money to make money, don't you?
Yeah, but Oklahoma and Texas are leaving. That means West Virginia would be number one, and they're less than $1 million.
Well, West Virginia, look at the resources. It's West Virginia. Man, I mean, the community, the town, the coal mines closed in the 70s. Like, it's not like one of them. Ain't no millionaires running to West Virginia. Let's be honest.
Pac-12, top three, Oregon, shocking, 1.8 million. That's the shocking part, that it's only 1.8 million. Washington, 1.4 million, and Arizona, 1.3 million. And the bottom, Colorado, that number's going to go up, 770,000. Washington State, 641,000. And Arizona State, no wonder Herm had problems, 461,000. Okay. What do you think, man, about the Pac-12? I don't think they're going to win much.
I mean, I'm going to say, what do you expect? Like, they're not doing that, right?
And then finally, the SEC, Georgia, $4.5 million. Texas A&M, $2.9 million, 2.98, and Tennessee, 2.91. Bottom three, Kentucky, 917,000. LSU, that's surprising, 742,000. Wow. And again, maybe it's because they can drive so many places. And Mississippi State, 633,000. What do you think about the SEC and what they spend for recruiting?
I think the SEC spends money for recruiting. Everything is down there. They do a lot of local, so they're not going to spend as much money. That's just the way I see it. They're not going to spend as much money, and they shouldn't, because most of the people they got is like right within. It's right there within the area they're in. So think about it. If they're spending money because the way football is built or sports are built or anything like that, I would think that they wouldn't have to spend as much, because you can recruit regionally in certain sports and still, like basketball, I can go outside. If they have lacrosse, I gotta go outside. Everything else I can get right there in that area. Right there. And I mean, you're in the middle. You got Texas, you got Florida, you got Alabama, you got all that right there. So it really isn't a lot of money. Just it shouldn't be,
Okay. All right. So some advice. I'll have my partner give some advice, but Here's some advice I would give for staffs across the country. You have to increase your secondary staff size. And what I mean by that is you got to have people who are portal people, who are just there to look through the portal. That's like a full-time job now. And that can be a remote person or whatever, but you got to have somebody in the portal daily. You got to have high school people. Sometimes high school people get on my nerves because they cry too much. That's me. This is Coach Adams. You're going to get recruited in high school. But I think high school people like cry too much about the COVID stuff. But that's just me. But you got to have people recruiting high school. So you got to have people focus on the portal, got to have people recruiting in high school because it's changed. So since it's changed, you have to adapt to change or keep complaining. You have to increase your social media staff, and you got to get people good at Canva. I'm looking for somebody good at Canva for the OCP. So if you've got a kid who's good at Canva, have them reach out to us because you got to promote this stuff. And you got to get a good NIL collective. And again, it doesn't mean you've got to get the greatest deals in the history of the world, but you got to do something. You can't just like say, well, we're just not going to get involved in it. No, you have to get involved in it in your own shape, facet, and form and what fits for you. But that's kind of what I think. And you also have to have primary staff, coaches who are focused on coaching and developing talent on campus. Like if I'm a college coach, I want a guy like you, Coach Francis, who I don't want you on the road. I want you developing our talent to make our talent better. So you need coaches that I'm not the recruiter, I'm the developer. And you also need coaches who are focused on off-campus recruiting. So you've got taking care of the players when they get on campus, and you've got coaches who are focused on who's leaving. So Mike, any advice for recruiting or any critique to mine? Because that's kind of how I would book it right now in this changing landscape.
I would kind of the same thing. You got to make sure that the staff that you bringing people on that's going to be able to do those things, because the portal ain't going nowhere.
Nowhere.
The portal is not going anywhere. So you got to have someone who's dedicated to that. They got to check that 2 or 3 times a day. If you ask me, that's got to be connected to the phone. It's got to be a ching ching. I'm going the bell. When I get that email from that portal, I want to hear the money sound ching ching, because then when I know, that immediately draws attention to who I got to look at. So I think that it's very important that you fill your staff, like you said, your secondary staff, your support staff has to be filled with people who can do things like that. We have to, not just the coaching. I know you're on the floor. You got to do what you got to do, but.
Yeah, and as we're in administrator roles, it is so critical to have your secondary staff be able to do jobs, because you can't worry about everything. You're busy. If you're the head coach of an organization, if you're a principal, you've got a lot of things going on. So whoever is in the portal, that person's got to report back to me, and I got to trust that that's what that's going to say. If my high school person says we've got to put energy to that person, okay, I'm going to trust because we've already had the meetings. That's what meetings are for. We're not meeting about who's bringing the donuts. We're actually meeting about empowering staff to do a good job and to do their job right. And we have a Find the Balance Friday coming up with my old boss, Tom Dickman, and he talked about empowering staff. And one of the reasons why we had some success was that we had people on our staff who were very good at their jobs. And as he liked to say, you're not going to bring us a bad player because you don't want to lose either.
I don't want that.
So right there. But anyway, fans, when we get back in segment 3, we're going to talk about the Pac-12 media deal. Y'all better do something. And we're also going to ask Coach Franchise his thoughts on spring football and spring camps. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast.
Why should student athletes use the CKA Save Project academic and athletic consulting services? Over the past 15 to 20 years, colleges, universities, professional sports teams, business organizations, and others have increased their use of consulting services to improve their decision-making processes and results. Over the same time, the athletic and academic landscape has changed for high school and college student athletes as the NCAA has raised initial academic eligibility requirements for student athletes while decreasing the number of transfer restrictions. Former college student athletes have noted that they were academic and athletically unprepared for the rigors of college. Let the CKA SAVE Project's close to 30 years of academic and athletic experience help guide student athletes to increase success as we work to help student athletes achieve the goal of obtaining a college degree. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast. In segment 3, it's that time of year, guys. It's spring football. So spring games begin in earnest this week. We've got Houston and Kansas. They started this past week. North Carolina State started last week. Auburn and Vanderbilt. So, Mike, before we make fun of the Pac-12, what does spring football do if you're one of these schools that are trying to win a national championship, one of the 5 that probably can? But what's spring football supposed to do?
Spring football is supposed to be set you forth to what you're going to do going into summer. It actually makes it it cuts down on what you're going to do as far as the summer is concerned. You get that out of the way, then you know, okay, this is what we can do and can't do because of the roster we have. This is what we're going to be able to do well. This is what we need to work on. And I get all of that in spring. It allows me to try a couple of things out. For instance, can we do RPOs? Do we have a quarterback in that quarterback room who's good with RPOs? Do we have a guy who can make audibles? Do we have a guy who can just run off signals? Or do I got to do a wristband because he's talented, he's athletic, but he might not, be able to see the field like you'd want him to? So all those things you work out during spring practice. So when you hit in the summer, because summer's very condensed, it's a short period of time. So you going in, we might go in the spring with 5 objectives, and then we got to narrow it down to 2 or 3, maybe 3 objectives once by the time August hit. So we can throw those 2 up, that out, let's go. This is what we're going to do in the summer, day 1 all the way through. Every period of practice is planned, everything is done. And you get that from spring participation.
So fall camp starts in August or July for college?
Depending on where you at. Most times it's August. Now they start working out when they actually hit the field in August.
Okay, so now we got about 12 weeks after spring camp. How much hitting do you let them do in the spring game? Are you going full bore, or is it a glorified tag? You're it.
Man, you can put flags on them. I'm telling you,
because Deion's got a stadium full of people coming in Colorado,
right,
for this spring game, and we ain't touching nobody.
No, we ain't getting nobody hurt. You crazy?
Okay.
Why would I do that?
All right. Okay.
I'm not going to lose somebody in April.
And
to show you how big AJ is coming back for the spring game, Coach Locks, they had lunch about when they was here last time, when AJ was here early in March, and that was the first thing. I got to get you back for the spring game, and AJ obliged. He will be back in attendance for the spring game.
All right. So Pac-12 TV deal. I'm so disappointed in the Pac-12. The timeline for the Pac-12's upcoming TV deal is starting to come into focus, and reports are that we will not have a deal for at least another few months. The Pac-12 CEO is scheduled to meet this coming week, and the timeline for the deal is later this spring or early this summer, and that's still not good. Arizona State's president, they both said they were in the final stages of a television contract, but that doesn't seem very optimistic. The Pac-12's television deal is directly tied to the future of the Pac-12 because it has, wait for it, Mike, 1 more year left on its current deal, as ESPN and Fox still hold the rights for next season. You got USC leaving. They're gone, man. You got UCLA leaving. You got San Diego State playing for the national championship. Maybe somebody else calls them and you lose out altogether. I don't know, but the Pac-12 seems like they're hurting themselves. They're running in place, and man, good luck with this, because they're looking at streaming services, and very few traditional networks are left. So Any thoughts on the Pac-12, man? Are we going to still have the Pac-12 in 3 to 5 years?
I think so. I mean, somebody will pull up. The money is going to intrigue other schools who are in the smaller conferences or whatever. I can see them getting into that. I can.
Okay. All right. And I can also see Phil Knight as his last thing.
Stop.
Saying Big 10. If you want to have a pod of schools in the West, myself and Washington will join USC and UCLA and be a 14 pod, and that will cut down travel costs. I can see that too.
Yeah.
And it's not like they don't have the money to do it. All right, finally, fans, they got some money in order. All right, finally, fans,
a little bit.
That's
a guy.
Phil Knight. They got the PK80 or whatever going on. Whatever. Okay. As we transition into full college sports off season, first of all, I'm very scared for every coach in the country. I'll be praying for you because without the structure of practices and everything, oh man, I'm scared of what we're going to see. And I say the same thing every year, Mike. I worry when you don't have structure. But every week we're going to provide you the best in college football and basketball coverage, along with the behind the scenes aspects of your favorite programs and what administration's doing. So we're going to follow stories like the transfer portal, and that's big. Okay. We're going to talk about signing period, and Mike's going to give you insight on what these things actually mean. We're going to talk about the rule changes, and this is when they try to slide stuff. As you heard in our Tuesday episode, the NFL slides stuff in when you ain't paying attention. Hey, look over there. Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do that launching thing. I can see a plan coming. We're going to talk about staff development and players. Please follow Tony Dungy's 5 rules, okay? Nothing good happens after midnight. Speeding cars, girls you know too well or not well enough. Okay. We mentioned drugs and alcohol. And I forgot the 5th one unless I did it all because I'm doing it off the top of my head. But, Mike, anything to add before we close, sir? That's transition time, baby.
It's no, not at all.
Go to class in the spring so you're eligible, please.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm scared. I hate after spring break because I got nothing on you.
They disappear. Ain't nobody really going. They might go once a week now.
Yeah, man. I don't know what's. So anyway, on behalf of my tag team partner, Coach Mike Francis, who's also a scared coach this time of year, I am Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we will see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.